Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another episode of our RB build series. Today we're going to strip our short block down to a bare block and we're going to prep it for reassembly. So we're going to start this by removing the 27mm bolt in the center of the crank. So this you'd have to do with an impact, but I did already hit it with an impact and it's loose. So I'm just going to hit it with a ratchet. Take that bolt right out, and then what I'll do after that, I can just set that down at the bottom, and I'll take off these 10mm to just take the belt off. Just pull these guys out. These are just, so that was a 27mm on the center of the crank. These are just 10mm nuts that would hold the fan blade on. So you might already actually have them loose from when you remove the fan clutch, but if you tighten them back up like I did, then it should be easy enough to get them free. So let's get those off. All right. So normally I just kind of tap it a little bit. There we go. So that's the belt and the water pump. So the water pump pulley, just remember it goes with the recessed side going towards the pulley. Or I'm sorry, towards the pump itself. So. Okay guys, so the next step of your disassembly is going to be to remove the alternator. You could do that by removing the 1 bolt at the bottom and the 2 bracket bolts at the top. They're both 14mm, all 3 are 14mm I should say. So it should be pretty easy to remove. And the nut fell on the floor for that, so just make sure you don't, just make sure you watch yourself with that. So I'm going to use my knee to hold that. Alright, so that bolt comes out. Alright, so now that you have the bolts out, just tap it with a hammer. It should come free. Alright. Wow, this guy's on there good. So what I do is I put the hardware back in the spot where I took it from, so when I put it back together it's easy to find. Alright guys, so I got a puller on the crank pulley and I'm just going to basically tighten that, and that's what will get the pulley off. So, and you should be good to go. Woo-wee! And this is the little plate that everybody talks about. So, I don't know how you get that off, to be honest. Oh, I see. You have to line up. Now you line up the, let me see if you can see this. Here you go. So you line up the woodruff key, the half moon woodruff key, with the plate, and then it should be able to make its way through. There we go. Just like that. And then that's one. So that goes just like that. And then we don't really need to take off this pulley right now. So if we have to later on we can. But right now, not a concern. It's 10 and 12. So now the next thing we're going to remove is going to be the cover and the water pump itself. So we'll start with the 10mm to hold the cover on. So there's one here, and my ratchet doesn't want to work. There we go. So that's one. We got another one here. Another one at the bottom. So we'll have to polish up these plastics when we get them off. Right now, our goal is just to get this whole thing disassembled, and we can decide where everything has to go to get polished, cleaned up, or whatever needs to be done once it's all apart. So that's the timing belt. This timing belt actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. I think it was just replaced. It's a, I guess a Nissan belt. That's in the garbage. We'll get a new one. It is good to see that it's Nissan brand though. So got that off. Now next step, water pump and the tensioner. So that's a 14, I believe. Wow. So that's that. We can put that all back on. Okay, so the next bolt we're going to remove is a 17 millimeter bolt. I'm going to pull the extension off. What I'll do is I'll grab a trusty breaker bar. And that was on there pretty tight, so good thing I had that. Alright guys, so that should be it. Now we can get the water pump off. Okay guys, so now we'll do the water pump. Start with the 10 millimeter. We already removed the two 14 millimeters because that was the alternator bracket. And I think we have a couple more 14s down at the bottom, but I'll get these 12s out first. So. Alright. So it looks like basically you have 1, 2, 3, 4 14 millimeters. You have one 10 millimeter, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 12 millimeters. So 6 12 millimeter, 4 14 millimeter, and 1 10 millimeter. That's what holds the water pump on. And keep in mind, we already took out 2 of the 14 millimeter head bolts to remove the alternator bracket. So I'm gonna actually take that off. So I'm trying to not be annoying with the ratcheting sound, but let's get all these out. There we go. All right, let's see here. That is disgusting. Wow. The amount of sediment and disgusting stuff in there is mind-boggling. We'll pull the thermostat out too. Now the thermostat's garbage. If you have a thermostat and it's got that much stuff in it, you could try and clean it up, but it's got a little diaphragm in there that has to open at a certain temperature. And when you start getting crap in there, it'll either not close all the way or not open at the right temperature. So better off just throwing it in the garbage, and we'll start fresh. So this thing looks horrendous. See the stuff falling out of the thermostat? That's not a good sign. And this was actually the old water, the thermostat housing that I welded up. So I know it's not like the best, but that was, so that's it. So I just welded the bung onto the end. When I did this, I did dash 16, but you can really use anything from dash 12 all the way up to dash 20. And dash 16 just seems to be a lot of flow, as well as it's still fairly easy to bend if you have a long hose. So it makes it easier to run than than dash 20, even though everybody says use dash 20. You're probably not going to have any overheating problems with dash 16. It's 1 inch 16/16, so it's 1 inch hose, and it works really well. So keep that in mind. If you want to go AN fittings, all you have to do is weld on a dash 16 bung basically to your radiator and to your thermostat housing, and you can run whatever AN hoses you want. So okay guys, so next up we're going to pull off the timing belt gear. Alright, there we go. This guy actually is on there pretty good, but it did come off without issue. So now that that's out, we have the next washer. Hold on, let me get back on this side of the engine. So again, line it up. Boom, boom. And okay guys, so this is a stack of the pulleys and washers. You have the washer that goes between the oil pump and the timing belt gear. You have the timing belt gear. You have the washer that the lip goes on the outside, goes facing outward between the two gears, and they have your crank pulley for your accessories. So these are all 10 millimeter. Let's see how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 8, 1, 2. Wow, this is grimy inside. You got 6. And then we're probably gonna have to tap this with a hammer as well, because some of this stuff is siliconed on, doesn't like to come off. So these are the bottom ones. Are, wow. The really long bottom one is bottom left if you're looking at the crank. The slightly shorter one's bottom right, and then slightly shorter than that is above that on the left, and then looks like the one above that's the same size. So let's see here. So I got my little bronze hammer. This thing doesn't do too much damage, so hopefully. There we go. So that's it. Simple as that. So if anybody knows, oh, this is definitely a short nose. I could tell already. So now, like I said, that was 8 10 millimeters that hold the oil pump gear on. I'm sorry, the oil pump on. Okay guys, so now we're going to take off the engine mounts. I already did the other side. I'm going to show you guys just 4 14 millimeter headed bolts. So just pulled them off. Line these right up the block. Simple as could be. So if this takes you guys more than a couple minutes, you're probably doing something wrong. So like I said, we have to have everything off the block when we go to hot tank it. So that'll help us get the water jackets cleaned out like they need to be. And some of the oil that might have been built up on anything, that'll get cleaned off as well. So, whew, there we go. So this is a B motor mount for the, I don't know if it's driver's side or passenger side. I guess it would depend on the shell. But the left side of the engine is B. Okay guys, next step, we're actually going to pull the rotating assembly. So I don't know if you've ever seen this done, but it's pretty simple procedure. We're going to flip the engine over, and we're going to pull all the rod caps off, and then we can one by one push the pistons up through the top and remove the piston and rod combos together. We're going to do them one at a time so we don't mix and match the caps. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is spin the motor 180 degrees. So hopefully this goes smoothly. Alright, so I'll actually angle it a little bit towards you guys. So the engine spun over, and I'm actually going to show you guys the inside of the engine. So this is the inside of the engine. So So this obviously isn't the cleanest engine we've ever seen, but this will do for our purpose. We need to check all the bearings, and boy, it is going to be a nightmare to spin this engine without the pulley on. So what we'll do, maybe throw this guy on just lightly, just so it gives us something to spin it. So then we'll set it up right there, and we can take those off. And just make sure you don't hit that off, because if you do, you'll probably damage your pulley. Our pulley's already pretty shot, so we're not going to be too worried. But so it's 2 at a time. So when you have 1 up, 6 will be up as well. And then when you have 2 up, 5 will be up at the same time. And then 3 and 4 will be up at the same time. So, all right. So those caps are loose. We'll take this one out. This is actually pretty simple. So people make, you know, piston swaps into a big deal because it is a lot of work. But I would say the hardest part about that would actually be setting your ring gap. And so these are worn bearings. So I'll show you right now. So let's see if we can focus. If you can see the uneven wear, those bearings are pretty shot. So this might seem like a silly trick or tip, but what I normally do is I'll actually take like a 3/8 extension and just put it over the rod stud and just push down with my finger on the other one. And what that'll do is it helps you to make sure you don't scratch anything. And then just grab the piston as it pops out. There we go. So one of the other concerns we normally have is when you're disassembling an engine that might be damaged, we normally lay out the pistons in order of disassembly. So if we're starting at cylinder 1, we would normally put this somewhere where we know it's cylinder 1 and put the next one next to it so we know it's cylinder 2. And make sure you don't just put them in a bundle where then you no longer know which one's cylinder 1 or which one's cylinder 5 or whatnot. Because if there is damage, you really want to know what cylinder it is and check for more damage on the cylinder and whatnot. So right now we're going to lay these out so you know that this is cylinder 1, and we'll do that right here. Okay, so, and then, so, ooh, that's not good. Our bearing just fell out. Cylinder 2, again, just push down. This should just fall out. Wow, that's tight. So the cylinder 5, knock the caps off, pull off the cap, if I can. Ooh, there we go. Now, should just be able to push down, and good to go. Wow, that's tight. I've had a couple of these that are just remarkably tight. Oh, wow. There we go. Alright, smack the rod, pull off the rod cap, there we go. Tap it. Don't tap it too hard, you're not trying to beat the thing since it should come off pretty easily. That's it. Ooh, crap. I don't know how I'm going to do it with the rear main seal intact. I might have to sneak in there and pull off the rear main seal first. I don't exactly know how, but let me see if I can do it. So, like I said, 6 10mm, take off this rear main. I would say replace the rear main while you have it off. that's something you're gonna want to do, because if you don't replace it, it will leak. Double check for any missing screws, any screws that you might have missed when you were taking it off. But that's it. So as you can see, there was silicone all the way around, silicone on top. Seal actually is in pretty good shape. There's a couple nicks on the outside. There's actually a lot of nicks on the outside, but the seal is still very, very flexible, and it actually still feels very like rubbery, so that's always a good sign. Sometimes they get really hard, and when a seal is really hard, it won't seal. So cam seals are notorious for this. The heat bakes them, and then they won't seal very well. So you replace cam seals, replace your rear main seal, your front seal. It's just the way to do it, man. Okay guys, this is the final step to our disassembly of our RB engine. We do have a couple sensors we still have to pull off in the oil filter, but otherwise this is it. We're going to take out these 17 millimeters that are the main caps. So what we'll do is we'll just pull off all the bolts, or loosen them all. So, there we go. That's it. When you feel it come up, you'll feel it. It's a serious weight, honestly. The girdle, and it actually lifts up the crank as well when you first do it. So, I mean, there we go. That thing is beefy, man. All right. So, the reason I wanted to do that was actually more to look at the bearings. And to smell the burnt oil. That's great. That's really not a good sign, I'll tell you that. So I'm actually dripping oil all over the place, but what I'll do is I'll pull the crank out and I'll put the girdle back on. Alright, so that's heavy, and we're going to make a spot. Crank's in actually pretty good shape. Pistons are toasted. Alright, there we go. So you can see the uneven wear. That's normally a sign that the bearings are starting to wear. And my battery's almost dead in my camera. So, again, uneven wear across the bearings is not a good sign.